Hi, everyone. I'm Tandy Gutierrez. I'm the creator and founder of unicornwellnessstudio.com. And today we're getting together to show off and introduce you to some of the unicorn wellness community. One of the things that's been fascinating and a blessing and an unexpected blessing of having an online business over the last nearly 7 years is that the community is really genuine and really supportive, gets to know each other, you make friends, you start to really see each other along your journey and your path and be a genuine support system. But we tend to not see it on the outside. Everyone online says they have an online community that's deeply connected. And everybody's got a community, but I really dare them to be as deeply connected as the unicorns are. Most of our community togetherness happens in the private Facebook group, but we do have monthly rituals, moon rituals here in Brooklyn. And over the last nearly 7 years, I've been traveling and doing live events with our communities all over the country. So today is a day to hear it straight from our members' mouths of why they joined in the first place, what it solves for them, and how they'd feel if it wasn't around anymore. Hopefully this will be motivating and supporting to you and just give you a better genuine understanding of who's on the mat and who's a unicorn. All right. So Callie, my dear, let's start with you. If you'll introduce yourself, let us know where in the world you are and anything else you want to share, and then let us know what Unicorn Wellness originally or continues to solve for you in your life.
Well, I am Callie, and I am in some very small town, Iowa, and I was brought to Unicorn Wellness from a fellow unicorn who I said just casually, I believe in unicorns. I love unicorns. And she's like, you need to meet Tandy. You need to be in this group. You need to know these people. Okay. That's all it took. And started talking with Tandy and just became a beautiful, magical necessity in my life, really. And I am also a theta healing practitioner, soul coach. And so this place really feeds my soul. So being part of the Unicorn Wellness community, really, it gives me that safe space to, for one, be who I am and connect with like-minded, magical people and be my true self. I mean, this is a space of unique, divine, empowered women, and to continue to on my journey to be my highest and best self, I need to surround myself with those kinds of people. And being in small town farming community, which I love with all of my heart and soul, there's not a lot of people like me, I guess, and we don't get exactly what all of this is. So to have the community that reaches I now have friends that are like pieces of my soul family that are all over the country, which is so incredibly beautiful. And if Unicorn Wellness went away tomorrow, just don't.
just don't do it.
Don't do it. Because I've thought a lot about lately, what did I do a year ago without it?
Yeah.
Nothing. I did nothing. I kept to myself. I kept my magic to myself. I was afraid to be myself. And now it's like, oh, I'm not alone. I am. Holy cow, I'm really cool. Look what I can do. Wow, these stretches on the mat, like my heart is so open. Like I was saying last night, my heart is just, everything just speaks to me like through the moon cycles, through all this magical things that really are in tune with exactly who we are and who we're all becoming. It's truly a necessity that fills me up physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, magically, in all the necessary ways to become my highest and best self, and just to that connection of everyone.
Well, I think it's really interesting. Also, we didn't say it. How long have you been a member? Has it been a year?
Not yet.
Okay. Because I think it's really beautiful the point that you make. Yeah, like it's like we're creeping on a year.
Yeah.
For sure. But I don't think you're there yet. And this is the other interesting piece is that you're a healing practitioner, like you're a wellness practitioner and totally magical. But you get to Unicorn Wellness and you're like, I got the practical tactics to help me hold it down, but also this community of acceptance, which I just think it's so beautiful, and like you said, you're like, I was thinking about what I was doing a year ago. Like, because sometimes I find that as a practitioner for others or those who are working in intuition, in the energies as an energetic healer, you're real careful about where you put your energy and who you let in.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up a lot of times doing nothing.
And everything else just didn't feel right. It didn't speak to me. And if it doesn't speak to me, I can't commit. And then I hate to say it, but then I just get flaky because it doesn't feel right. So I see lots
of nodding heads in here, so we'll get to that one too. But also the flakiness thing. I had someone reframe it for me fairly recently, and I thought, oh, that was very relieving, right? Because I go, I'm picky about it, and I'm kind of an a-hole about quality. And if people can practice, but if they're not real magic, I don't want anything to do with them. And I know that my energies will be weirder and worse off if I connect. Mm-hmm. And this person goes, you're not picky. You're very like protective, as you should be. And I went, damn straight.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing too. Like the more people that become part of it, it's like this beautiful force of empowered women that attract the same type of women. Even if they're not there yet, they're going to be.
That's a huge, I love that you see that.
Definitely. But it's like, once they get in here and they're surrounded, like, oh, this is what it is. This is who I can become. I can become not just this, but I can be anything, exactly who I am. And that's what's the most beautiful part of it to me.
Well, and to feel safe to support that, like, hey, I feel like kind of doing this, or I might want to do this other thing. And everybody in the group, in the community at some point goes, yeah, right on, go try that. That sounds great.
I'll buy it. Let's go.
Right? Totally. Okay, that's beautiful. Thank you, Callie. Okay. Val, will you share with us next, please? Will you tell us who you are, where you are, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get to the questions.
Sure. So first of all, I want to say bonjour. Megabo Ojidajukwe Indigenikas. I am Valerie St. Pierre Smith. I currently am being held in Nebraska, and I mean held because that's where we're living, but I don't tend to stay places very long. I am also White Earth Ojibwa, so what I actually just said was hello. Woman Standing on the Mountaintop is my name, and that is my native name, gifted to me by a medicine man from White Earth Reservation a long time ago. When I was, we just won't talk about how many years ago. Anyway, when I was a child prodigy is when that was. I am many things. I am a costume designer and professor at present. Clearly of Native heritage, which is pretty much tied into who I think I am. I've also been called lately to studying plant medicine and healing, but more from an energetic and spiritual perspective, as much as from a Western sort of allopathic, you have a headache, go take this medicine viewpoint. And I'm a mom, so if you do happen to hear some of the kids, that's because they're all out running around outside.
I love it. We can't hear them, so that's all good.
Okay, good.
That's totally, I think, one of the common threads, although it is not a necessity, is there are a lot of mamas in this group. And actually, in the room, we're all mamas. So that's one of the gathering here pieces today. Let's just head straight for question number one is, what did Unicorn Wellness solve for you, or what does it continue to solve for you? Because sometimes those are two different things.
You know, it's funny, thinking about that question, I was trying to remember how I landed, similar to what Callie was saying, like how I landed with Unicorn Wellness. And we go way back.
Yeah, you can say.
Back to those child prodigy years. And so here's what's funny. I mean, we didn't really stay in touch after college. We were friends in college. And as sort of nomadic people do, you know, pop in and out of people's lives. I'm also a bit of a Luddite, which means I like technology from a distance. But I was teaching at a university in Washington, D.C. when Facebook first became a thing, and all my students were like, you join Facebook, you have to join Facebook. Ah, fine. But then the magic of Facebook is reconnecting people. And I still remember the Pimp Your Mat years. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's so cool, Tandy's doing that, and kind of poking in once in a while. And it was through some of my own change and growth and the very distinct realization that I'm not a child prodigy anymore, and my knees weren't liking my running workouts, and a fair number of other things. Fitness had always been important to me, and I realized because of my schedule, because of my traveling, because of trying to have a family life, I couldn't go to the gym anymore as much as I liked it. I couldn't commit to gym classes as much as I liked, because even when I was going to the ones at 5 o'clock in the morning, it was like racing out there, but then it might be January and it's snowing and blah, blah, whatever. And Facebook, the universe, kept sending me all these things about Unicorn Wellness. And I was like, oh, so I had realized like you've made that transition. And the great irony is I clicked, I was like, I want to go check it out. I haven't really, looked at Tandy's stuff in a while. And you had a video, I don't know if you remember this, but you had a video and it was like, welcome, I'm so glad you've come to check it out. You're here for a reason. It's not it's not a mistake that you found the, Unicorn Wellness. And I lost it. I just started laughing. I was like, hey, I hear you, this is great, like fine. So in the beginning, it was really more of that, I'm so crazy busy, schedule's nuts. I need to be able to travel and work out. My body's changing. I've always liked Pilates and yoga and have done those. So that's where I started. Yeah. So that's kind of the it's all. But then as the community grew and as we get into really the energy, and for me, it's very spiritual. It's tied to a spiritual side of my own self that I really liked, that you integrate so much of it, that it is wellness to me, it's wholeness to me, that it's not just about my physical body, but it's also you work through the understanding of energy and the spirit in the physical body, the actual link, not just saying like, hey, we live in a body, but no, the energetic, we're just osmosing between each other, and it's all there. So the continuation of that has really been super helpful, and I've been going through sort of my own awakenings and my own studies and things, and it just dovetails everything so beautifully. And then with the community, I very much feel like Callie. It's like, oh, I'm not the only one like this. Amazing. So it's been really nice to connect. And again, I still am a bit of a Luddite, but I have to tell you, I actually check Facebook quite frequently, but the only place that I go is to the Unicorn.
Okay, well, I love it. Okay, I love so many things, right? One is that when I became the mother of two as opposed to one, and this concept of I'd always, I was still teaching, and then it was about time for me to go back to work. I was just blown away by the fact of how did anybody ever get to the gym or work out outside of their home? I mean, those that do it, and there's a whole billion-dollar industry of it, but it's unbelievable the time it consumes. And I'm that person, I really like things to be efficient. As woo-woo as I am, I need a lot of rails to keep me grounded. And it was just like, it would be a 3-hour process. So part of us launching the original site was that I was like, there's no other way I'm ever going to be able to work out again in my mind with all the other things I'd like to accomplish in a day or have to with 2 children. So I love hearing that it really solved for you as someone who's working as a mom with, multiple children and traveling too, that you're like, I need some self-care. I need some consistency. I'd love to have this boutique experience, but I got 30 minutes, and so hooray, because originally, and it still is the heartbeat of it, that's the concept. We all need way more self-care than we're getting. And we need it in ways that can work in a modern life with that spiritual mindset. And I also love that you and both, Callie, have already hit on, I feel like the way the Brady Bunch setup is here, that I'm like surrounded by like divine practitioner energy right now, that when we rebranded and relaunched as Unicorn Wellness and really brought the energetic piece of it to the front and had the tarot readings, and I was like, yeah, I'm a psychic, here we go, we're just going to put that out there. I felt like I was coming out of, the spiritual, psychic, woo-woo closet. And so I love hearing others that are like, oh, I feel comfortable in like, oh, I'm not alone. Because that's how I felt. And I was just like, please don't let me lose all of our members and all of our clients over this. So it's a really, really extra special thing for me to hear that that's a huge part of the component for you all in staying.
I think something that's important too, though, is if you're not that way, or if you join initially and that's not your inclination, I feel like that it's done in such a manner that you don't have to participate in that if you don't want to, but even that's still there, and the Reiki that comes to, you know, and every 3-day videos is awesome. I don't know how many DVDs I have of workouts, but after a while you're like,
Right.
Keeping that energy going. Somebody can participate at whatever level they choose to, in all of the facets that you and that Unicorn Wellness really bring to the forefront.
Absolutely.
Pick and choose.
I think as we go through too, we'll hear more about that too, because you don't have to participate on that level. And we have, I would say, a significant portion of members who don't still. That's fine. You know what I mean? I just feel like whatever works and it's supporting your wellness, then please take that, you know? Okay. If Unicorn Wellness were to go away tomorrow.
And I didn't hear that. That's not happening. I'm just
not putting that out there. We're not. I want to be real clear. To get to the emotional aspect of things, of how connected as a community are, like, how would you really feel? Like if you woke up and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Good for you. Everybody needs self-care. Bad for the entire rest of us and all the people who haven't found Unicorn Wellness yet. No, I don't form deep commitments to a lot of things, and like I'm a very loyal person and my emotions run deep, but I'm also very much of the mindset, like, people are in your life for a time, for a season, for a reason, and it's kind of that ebb and flow. I don't want to say easy come, easy go, because it's not usually ever easy, but that's always been my life. I go places and leave places and move all the time, and it's never a, huge, horrible, traumatic event. But that all to say that if Unicorn Wellness wasn't part of my life, I would feel very adrift. And I would miss the community that we have. And I very much echo sort of what Callie was saying, in the sense that I would go back into that amorphous world where you think people might be out there, or people are out there, but you're restricted to a geographical location, or you're back to going through, because I've slogged through a fair number of websites, whether it's, for meditation or for whatever. And so many of them out there, I know they all have the best intent, but they don't feel the same heart level genuine. And that's where I would miss it. I would miss it greatly. I would have to mourn it, if we're going to use real, I would have to mourn it for a while, because it would take a very large foundational chunk of where I am now, and how I continue my own personal practice would sort of disappear into the ethers. So.
Well, no, because I really, that's what I hope, right? And that's what I think as I'm back here, of like, I really mean it. And this is where I get like mad at the internet sometimes, because it's so noisy, right? And it's,
oh my gosh.
Right. And that's been a thing for me and for us as a business too, where I'm like, I actually really mean it. I really do. So to hear that it comes across is really important to me. And I go, it really does feel different to our community, and it's not going to be for everybody, but for those who are, I'm very loyal also, right? Like, we've been, in each other's sphere, although not super close, for over 20 years. Like, that matters to me. I love it. I just appreciate you saying that, because it is really real. That's why we're doing this video, that I'm like, I want people to put faces to names to community members, and to also see that, like, Callie and I didn't know each other a year ago. We're like BFFs now. Like, yes, you and I went to college together, but we weren't like besties. No. And so everybody in this room, I literally did not know before they were members, really, not on a deep level. and that there are genuine, real relationships that get cultivated out of this. You don't have to live in my back pocket either, but you could if you wanted to, you know. So beautiful. Thank you, Val. Thank you, thank you. Lita, my love, I'm coming for you. Will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Lita. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I have my little one here. She's almost 11 weeks, Leona. So she just woke up, so she's like wiggling around, but she's happy now. So, let's see. I was thinking about how I got connected with Unicorn Wellness, and it was through another unicorn, Vanessa, who I'm sure you all are pretty familiar with. But it's kind of evolved, I feel like, my relationship. So I started, I think, more with the physical aspect, and I think this is kind of like around the time where you were starting to get more into the tarot and the new moon rituals and things. And I have a hard time committing to things, so I feel like I was doing it with Vanessa only, kind of like when she was doing it, I was doing it too. For the physical aspect, and then kind of on the side, I was getting into, on my own, kind of getting into tarot and astrology, my interest, and then it kind of was serendipitous that you started doing it more on the site, and I feel like that's kind of what hooked me, because I was already doing it on my own, and then so it just felt like divine timing that you were also doing it too, and the physical aspect of it also. I feel like that's kind of where I started.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of evolved, like through the pregnancy. I wasn't doing so much of the mat work, so I was more into like the tarot spiritual side and the food side of it all during the pregnancy. And then now, after I've had her, I'm getting more into the physical aspect now that I'm like, trying to get back in shape and things. So I like that no matter where I am in my life, Unicorn Wellness has something to offer that I can kind of anchor into and support my journey, which is what I really love.
I was so excited that you could join us today, because I do feel like you really embodied this very particular member that I'm like, wherever you're at, come on in. Because you did really start by, like, a friend was doing it. You're like, okay, I'll get on the mat sometimes. And then I think it was when we were doing the rituals online that you were like, no, the tarot's really interesting to me. And then you were like, yeah, okay, the movement. And then you, like, just as you said, that you've had this beautiful evolution, right, of like the ebb and flow of life, and life happens, and that you can live with it in all of these different ways, that it'll evolve with you, even though what I'm teaching is staying in its rails. Yeah. And so I just find it fascinating to watch your journey also through motherhood and into motherhood, and that it'll always evolve, but that you're like, now I'm heading back into the mat, because that's where I need support right now. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's been really cool to see. I feel like as Unicorn Wellness evolves, I'm also evolving too.
Yeah. Do you remember how long you've been a member now?
I think maybe a year, like an official member, maybe a year, a little over a year.
Really? Because I think so, but longer than that.
I've been, like, I've known of you through Vanessa for a long time, many years, but I think, like, me as a member, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to say too, because we have people, for moms to be, so in that, like, prenatal stage, and then when women find out that they're pregnant, and then a lot of people automatically go, I got to cancel my membership, and I go, no, you don't have to. Like, and I think this is what's really interesting is, one, just like you stated beautifully, is that you anchor into the meditation and the tarot part and the food part, even if you're not feeling the movement. but the movement evolves with you too. And I think Erica and probably Lindsay will comment on that also. And I think people forget that I had two, like that this movement actually works really well. There are modifications, but the moment a member, you know, becomes pregnant, they just send me a little message and I send them a little email with the modifications for it. So I think it's funny because people go, oh, I can't do this anymore. Okay, you're not going to do it exactly the same in your second and third trimester. Like, no, but you'll be shocked at how much can go with you as you evolve as in other workouts wouldn't be able to move with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, if it were gone tomorrow, if we did no more Unicorn Wellness, how would you feel?
I would feel really sad, like I really enjoy the community that has grown, and I've started my macrame, the A Little Light macrame stuff, and you've been such a huge supporter for it, and so thank you. And you've been really instrumental in kind of growing my own network too.
Hey, this timer. I hear you.
Where was I? Oh, you've been really supportive of that and been a good outlet for me to reach other people too and kind of grow my own network through my macrame. And so I think I would feel really sad if that community kind of went away.
Yeah.
But also I feel like the connections that I've made through Unicorn Wellness will last even if it's gone, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Perfect. Thank you, Lita. I think just to follow up with that is that when we did a community gathering prior, that was one of the interesting things that came up was that if it did go away, I mean, there's a lot of sadness, you know, even for myself, like, you know, I do think sometimes, what if like things were it's slightly different, but what came up in the last community gathering too was like, be really sad. And there would be this mourning. However, these connections would last. You all would figure out how to keep the community going. We'd talk about that. Somebody else would manage at least the community aspect of it. Like I have no doubt that there would be like this next lineage or evolution of something for you all to stay together, which I love because that shows that transition and that capacity to say goodbye, to mourn something, but then to go, okay, well, what's next in that space for it to grow? Which I think is really interesting. So really cool. Jill, did you want to add to that?
I was just, when you guys were talking about the modifications, I was just thinking of like how many times I've seen in the community people, not just for when they're pregnant, but I just had surgery on X, or I know there have been numerous things that I've come to you for, like, oh, I think I have plantar fasciitis, or my hip is acting up, or this, like, all there's you know, anything. It's like that's another part of it not being just an offering of here's the video, here's the workout, here you go, but it's like we get what we need. It's like it's so individual on that scale of all the modifications that you can get when you need them to bring you into the whole health, from pregnancy and postpartum to everything.
Well, it is really true. And I think this is another, like, it's almost like we have Easter eggs hidden on the site. Like, I have never expressed it that way before, but that is kind of what it is, that it becomes so much that people don't realize what's there. But if we put everything on the front end of the website, it's overwhelming. That's literally been a thing of like too much information. We almost offer too much, when meanwhile we don't. When there's an issue, it's almost like a joke of like, oh, I've got a protocol for that. Everybody's like, seriously? There's one for everything? And I'm like, mostly. Like, there's a couple of things I don't have a protocol for, but that's where the real connection does come out. And Jill, thank you for pointing that out, because when there's an injury or an issue or just a funky bit that's happening in the body, you know, that you just email me. Essentially, you just send an email to the site. Sean sifts through them. What he answers, he does, and what he doesn't comes straight to me. And there's always an answer and always a response. And I mean, honestly, aside from maybe 3 things that have come up in the last nearly 7 years, there is a protocol of homework that works for it. So it becomes very personalized, without it getting overwhelming. Like, yeah, it just,
or even like my pigeon looks like,
yeah. It's a wrapping pigeon. Terrible. But yeah, so we've done so many things over the years too, of like, I really encourage people to reach out, and fewer people reach out than you think. That's the other funny part, because people are like, how can you answer everything? I'm like, because y'all don't ask and utilize really what you could utilize. And I have been teaching human bodies for 23 years. Bodies are unique, and yet they're not, right? They're built to function in a certain way in alignment. And so there is a protocol for even areas of the body that cover this huge span of issues there. So it's kind of like if you got plantar fasciitis or, an Achilles tendon tear, the homework is the same, but it works for both, right? So I, used to have to email people and go, don't look at the title, just do the work. It works. I promise. Because they'd be like, why are you sending me this? That's not my problem. I'm like, I know. I just had to give it a title. Okay, well, Jill, since we're with you, why don't we just continue with you?
okay.
Okay. So introduce yourself now that we've gone.
Okay. Yeah. I'm Jill Applegate. I live in Santa Rosa, California. And I've been on the mat for 5.5 years. And I've always liked Pilates, although this is the first way that I've taken it where it is truly multi-level, like down to, the left leg is a little bit harder to pick up off the floor than the right leg, or what have you, like really fine-tuned to you have a way of doing it for whatever body I've got. So I started 5.5 years ago. It was in May, so there was like a birthday freebie, and I was like,
oh my God, you remember that? It was my birthday, so I threw a party.
That's right. And I got on the mat, and that was right before the reset came out. And I remember that because then people started, it was like, my whole history has been this series of surprises and opening, evolving, like enriching steps that I didn't ever consider. I just wanted to work out. My son was old enough to say, I don't want to go to the YMCA daycare anymore. I don't like it. So I had to find something else. And so I got on the mat and loved that part of it. And then I started hearing on the community, like, well, yes, I've got some ideas for food issues, but I'm not ready to release it yet. You're such a tease.
Very resistant to this process. And you all would not leave me be. I was like, okay.
Yeah. And I think I had like a rash. For me, it's like often skin things, but I've always had a body with like weird ways that anxiety or problems come out. But I had like a rash that had been on my finger for like 6 months. And, I'm like, I keep hearing about this food reset, and my gut is telling me to go there. And I did. And it's not what I was here for, like that was really a surprise. And I nailed my food code and stayed with it for a year and felt great. And got to meet you in person when you were in California a couple of times, and got to know more and more of the community members. And fast forward to the Unicorn Wellness Handbook, and I have a background as a copy editor, so we worked together and I, kind of like,
Jill,
how
I
does
did my
mommy handle that? And in return, I had one-on-one sessions with you. So I was like, that's how I want to that's how the exchange that I want to make. So that was a huge impact in my life because it introduced me to low risk spirituality. And I come from an atheist background, and talk about coming out of the spiritual closet. I was like, I'm not in a closet. What are you talking about?
I know, Jill, I was kind of trying to save you for the end because I feel like she's the culmination of nearly 7 years online. Yeah. Yeah. You were like, I'm not in a I'm fine. I'm good.
But it turned out that, all right, I do really like to meditate. And so I picked that up, and through that process, I was like, I'm in the wrong job. I need to be honest about that with myself. What do I really want to do for myself? How do I guide myself to something else in integrity? And that was, talk about transformational.
Right. Well, and I want to throw out there too, you're currently doing magical mentoring. So
I'm currently yeah.
Like, and I know other people in this room, or when they're not going to see it, but like your glow, like, is like, whoop, like that dial got turned up big time. And I'm looking at a process of, like you said, 5.5 years, you know, and then you've been diligent. You've done the reset multiple times. You've been on the mat. You've been off the mat. You're back on the mat. Like, you're always here. But there's been a lot of transformation. So like, it started as a physical, like, fitness practice of what it solved, and then became really lifestyle and spiritual. Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting because the physical has always been an expression of the psychological and the internal.
Yeah.
What's going on in my mind with
of course.
So it makes a lot of sense. And then I was at that point, I'm like, I think I'll check out. I went on vacation and was like, I'm going to bring a tarot card pack with me and just spend the 2 weeks just like playing with it. And then boom, I'm like, all right. But it started out with the tarot card readings, the monthly ones. And I was like, those are saying things to me that you don't know that they're saying to me, but that it's channeled right to me. I know what it is, and that's cool. And I don't have to know why or explain it. It is what it is, and it's working for me. So that all.
I want to call you like the accidental spiritualist, you know, or like accidental magic, you know, that you're like, well, I don't really, and you kind of have I'll be honest, Capricorn, that like you've like put your hand up the I'm not going there, I'm not going there, I'm not going. Meanwhile, you're like walking and leaning. And it's been beautiful.
Following me?
Yeah, right? So fun. Well, okay, final question. If it went away, if Unicorn Wellness went away tomorrow, how would you feel?
Yeah, well, it provides a lot of benefit in my life. So it would be really hard to replace all those benefits. Plus, it would be a gym, it would be a Zen center, it would be, finding a tarot community. I mean, not all are alike, this is my home. So that would be hard to find my place again. I think I would feel a little bit at sea, and then I would miss being in your back pocket all the time. But I do have connections with you and with people on the site that are sort of beyond just the site. Like, I do follow Lita on Instagram. Yeah. I need to know.
You guys should all be following each other. That's what we do around here.
Yeah, I've got lots of friends on Facebook that are from the community and able to see what they're up to. And so there are lots of tendrils and connections and roots all intertwined and all of that. So, but yeah, I would miss it. I'd be sad. It would be huge. It'd be huge. And I'd be mad at you.
I know. Hey, leave it to the Capricorns. Be like, I'd be mad at you. Yeah, let's be honest. Okay. Oh my God, Jill, I love you so much. Yeah, okay, you're the first person who said it. I'd just be mad at you, so there you go. Keeping it real. All right, on that note, I'm going to mute you. I love you. Thank you. Oh my God. Okay. So Erica, will you please introduce yourself? Let us know who and where you are, a little extra info, and we'll get to the questions.
Cool. I am Erica. I live in Camas, Washington, which is just right outside Portland, Oregon. Different state, but basically the same spot. And let's see, I've been a member now, I think I'm on like a year and a half. In May, it'll be 2 years, which is funny because it feels like it has been, like it's gone so fast, but it's also like, I don't know how I survived before it was part of my world. So it's kind of funny that it's only been a year and a half, which is kind of fun.
I think that too, though, about you in particular. I'm like, it hasn't been like 6.5 years. Like, really?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I was also brought in by Vanessa, which is funny. Vanessa is a childhood friend of mine. We go back to, I think I was like 2 when I met her, and we were across the street neighbors and BFFs until she moved away from me to Chicago when, oh gosh, I think I was in like 7th or 8th grade. So she was basically like a staple through all of my childhood, Girl Scouts together, all that kind of fun stuff. So she brought me in, and it was actually kind of weird because we had kind of fallen out of touch, but I still followed her on Facebook and stuff. And at the time I was struggling with fertility issues and was just like, so also a disclaimer, I hate to be vulnerable. And so Unicorn Wellness the whole community has been a really funny experience for me because I don't have close friends. Like I have like maybe 3 that like live across the country. And I'm just like, other than that, I don't open up to people. I don't like talking about personal things to people. And so I was having a hard time with fertility stuff, and I just felt like something was missing. And so I wanted to get into meditation, but I didn't know anything about it or what that meant or anything. And I knew from Vanessa's posts that she is like she's just amazing in everything. And so I messaged her and I was like, hey, do you have any suggestions of like what guided meditations I could listen to or something? And she gave me a couple examples. And then she also sent me you. And I don't know what it was, but it was just like, it was like instant magic. And I watched that first video, the introduction video, and it was just like, this is it. Like, okay, I'm in, I'm cool. And so from there, the Unicorn Wellness community, actually at that point, I think it was still Matt and Kitchen, but anyway, the community of all of these wonderful, amazing people, there's something about it that's so magical and so amazing that like, I actually like opened up, and I have shared so much more than I would ever share with anybody that I ever like met in person. And I think maybe part of it is like the safety of it being this community where we all know each other, but it's also like you have that little bit of anonymity where it's just so safe. And
Well, and I'm sitting here laughing too, because I can be similar. People like meet me in person think I'm kind of, I don't know, like can be, I don't trust everybody, I'll put it that way. But in a certain community, it's a very safe space. But beyond that, it's also a very brave space. And I'm sitting here going, you don't like to be vulnerable. Look at you with everybody here. Like, okay. And you were like, I'm on it. I'm doing it. I'm like, okay. Yeah. I didn't actually know that either as far as like friendships go.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
I think 3 close friends. And they have been friends forever, and they are amazing, amazing friends. But there's like 3 of them.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So, okay. So originally, like when Vanessa communicated, it kind of solved like the meditation and kind of wanted something more. What does it solve now in your life for you?
Well, it's evolving, which is kind of cool. It's like a little bit different. And when I started, I was already going to the gym all the time. I've always been kind of a gym rat, but I was kind of on the opposite side where I just like overdid things, and I like tried to just destroy my body and somehow think that was going to make me magically feel better, like mentally, spiritually. It turns out it doesn't. Surprise. Yeah, right. So, from there, at first the meditation was like a really big thing for me, and then I had my first I don't know if my first one was a 1-card reading or a 3-card reading, but I had that first reading and you were helping me kind of navigate my headspace in regards to fertility issues.
Yeah.
From there, I did the reset, kicked gluten out of my diet, stopped taking fertility drugs, which is kind of weird and felt really backwards, but through like the whole process and just like the support of the community and you and talking, and I swear I use you as my personal therapist too. It has gotten me through like the whole thing, and I got pregnant. And then my whole experience totally changed, because then it was more like me emailing you all the time, like, hey, this part of my body hurts. What do I do now? Which was super helpful and awesome. And then I got through that, had my sweet little baby. He's a cute little cutie bug. And now I have been navigating first like all of the after body stuff. And then at some point I kind of gave up, and honestly, I haven't been on the mat for like a million years. I still go back to it a little bit when I try to, but right now I'm just like totally focused on all of the like tarot cards myself, which is kind of cool, and then meditations, and again using you as my personal therapist and trying to navigate the whole like postpartum depression world, which again, sharing that kind of stuff with like anybody is like, I don't know what's going on here, but it's just been so amazing. And it has supported me in a way that like, not only is it like, it's like a package deal where it's like the physical, the mental, the spiritual, like the whole, everything just kind of like feeds off of each other. And I feel like depending on the day, depending on the month, depending on like what part of my life I'm trying to navigate, there's something there to help. I love it.
It's amazing. Will you share how like postpartum you are right now? Because it's not.
Yeah, not very. And it's actually kind of weird, because I always thought that postpartum depression was like an instant thing. Turns out for me, it didn't hit until 12 to 15 weeks, somewhere in there. And baby is now, his name's Elliot. He's super cute. He's now about 4.5, almost 5 months old.
Yeah.
And so just kind of navigating all that. It's getting better by the day, but it's really nice to have a community and support network and such wonderful, amazing individual people who I can just like jump on the Facebook group and be like, I'm sad because of this. And everybody just jumps in with all this love and support, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I think, again, when I knew that Lita and you and Lindsay on a different spectrum, but the spectrum of motherhood and new motherhood, and whether you've got 1 or 9, when you have that postnatal, it's new. That's a new soul and a new person and a new relationship and a new way of navigating your whole life, that it is really beautiful to hear you all talk through how the different aspects support you and how there's an ebb and a flow to that. You know, and postnatal depression is no joke. Like that postpartum depression is like, that's no joke. And I, interestingly enough, didn't have it with my sons, but I still have seasonal depression that I navigate and that I manage. So I understand, you know, and movement's always been such a home base for me to help navigate that. But the meditation is so powerful when you're like, I can't even navigate that because I can't get myself there. That there's still that support system, which is just powerful. And so I'm just so grateful that that's there for you and that resonates for you. If it were to go away tomorrow, if Unicorn Wellness was no more, how would you feel?
I would feel so lost, even when I'm not participating I feel like I'm always participating, because I'm always like creeping and scrolling and like looking at everybody else's stuff in the Facebook community. And like watching the videos and looking at the weekly tarot readings and stuff like that, I feel like I get so much out of them that if it was gone, it would be like this like piece just like missing from my core now. It's weird, but it's funny because it's only been like 1.5 years, and how is that so like part of me now, you know?
Well, I do think it's funny, but and everybody's got their own unique journey, but I mean, Jill's been with me for 5.5 years. I mean, there are the members who have been with me every moment for 6.5 years. And I have clients who left, when I left a studio environment or a gym, that I've had for 15 years because they came to the online offering. So it's kind of like, if it's a fit, it's a fit. Like, if it's not, it's really not. Like, but if you want it, you know, if it does resonate, it's pretty powerful. But Erica, you in particular had this pretty powerful transition of coming. And I mean, if I can share it too, that first reading was really about the infertility and the issues, and that I always play both sides of science and of natural approaches, because we need both of them. But
For sure.
talking you through like, well, here's what's possible, here's what I've helped people with, here's what I've seen, here's what I know. And then you get to make choices, and you really did choose to make a go of it naturally. Of like, no, I'm going to quit taking them. And then being really diligent about being gluten-free. And then it was a little bit like you got your miracle baby.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like you had been told, like, this is not happening without all this stuff. And I was like, well, it's possible. Do you believe in miracles? Like, things are possible.
And I was at a point too, it was miserable. I mean, and I'm totally, science is the most wonderful thing ever. Like, obviously, when you need a medication for something, you need a medication, and doctors are doctors for a reason. Like, it's fabulous. But I was at a point where just the weird stuff in my body was just not working for me, and it wasn't working also. I was like a good solid year-ish into it, and nothing working. And was having to just go through each additional step, and each one would just make me feel more and more like a failure, like my body was broken, like it wasn't working, like it was terrible. And it's funny because I feel like I'm kind of in the same place now, but like in the reverse, where with like the depression side of things, I don't even want to go down that path. I don't want to go down like a drug route, because I just feel like it doesn't work for my body in these situations. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful thing to say and to recognize, because I feel like my personal system is very similar. Like, I had a thyroidectomy, I have no thyroid, I'm on daily chemical medication. I wouldn't be alive without it. Like, hooray for science. Like, but as the body, typically I'm hypersensitive to things like that. Any kind of like numbing or anesthesia or anesthetic, like I freak out. It feels creepy in my body. And like knowing where it's necessary and where you're comfortable and where you're not, and then using which tools to balance, because it's always about balance. So again, like, just really beautiful that in this community we're all about being empowered by your choices. Make the choices that resonate with you and your body and your system, letting things being supported in a spiritual way for all those choices. And then like the other opinions don't matter. They really don't matter, right? It's not like there's one answer around here, because that's certainly not the case. Like, yeah, so beautiful. Thank you, Erica. Okay, and then we're going to come and chat with Lindsay. And I think that there's so many reasons that hopefully we'll unravel of having Lindsay finish some things out for us today, but also after chatting with Erica, because similar but totally different. Right? If you're willing to share some of these pieces of things. So, Lindsay, if you'll introduce yourself, let us know where you are, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I'm Lindsay North. I'm in Denver, Colorado. I came to Unicorn Wellness from Bree, School of Betty Bree, more on the spiritual side of things. I originally booked, I think it was a 5-card reading with Tandy, and I wasn't a part of Unicorn Wellness yet, but as soon as the reading was done, I knew, I was like, I want to sign up for this. I don't know. I don't care how much it costs. Like, I have to be a part of this community. I mean, 2 minutes into my tarot card reading, I was bawling because it was just like so much truth, like hitting me. And I'd always been skeptical. I had had other readings before, and it was interesting, but I was like, I don't know how much I totally believe in this, but I knew from the start with you that I was like, this is the real deal. And I remember at the end of the tarot card reading, you said, I love you very much. And I was just like, like, I just want to be a part of this. Like, how do I become a part of this? Which Bree knew that I would, like, she just knew. And she had told me about you for a long time, but I wasn't quite ready. But I think it was about a little over a year ago that I had that reading, and I've been with you ever since. Yeah.
Okay. So really the gathering today it's always magical to see who we get together, but I thought, whoa, because like Callie and Erica and Lindsay, it's really only been a year, if even in that, like, and I'm like, y'all are my sister. I mean, really, like, there is a deep place of soul connectedness in my heart with you all. That's not baloney. And I didn't know you before this began.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to hear how a lot of people come to the site because it's a friend who introduces you. Like it's always kind of been a hand-to-hand, I say it as a hand-to-hand combat. That's not very nice, but it's more of like an angel intervention. It's like the universe goes, you need to hear this.
Yeah.
Are you going to listen?
Yeah. Well, and I think Bree even recognized in me, because I was raised super religious and that never totally felt right with me. But then there was that guilt of like turning my back towards that. And so I tried to make it fit for a really long time. And it just never felt right. And I think like Bree recognized in me, like I kept dipping my toe in different spiritual practices, and I started making malas like 4 years ago. And so she was like, you need to like, you got to check this out. And so, yeah, like it was just divine timing that brought me to the table with you.
Feel like it really, like for you when you originally signed up, that it really solved a spiritual component for you?
Yeah. And I still to this day, like with my pregnancy, I haven't been getting on the mat as much. However, I mean, it's still to this day more spiritual for me. Like you always say, come for the mat, stay for the magic. Yeah. For me, it's come for the magic, stay for the mat.
Yeah.
So, and you know, ever since that first reading, I remember getting my first deck of tarot cards, and it just like was like, this makes sense. And like so many people have said, it was like, I've never been one to shy away from letting my freak flag fly at all. However, this was like opening another like floodgate. Even people that I work with were just like, there's something about you that is so, you're like free. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm finally grounded in what makes sense to ground me, not something that I was grown up believing that I was supposed to be grounded in, that I don't believe in. So.
Well, and we're very similar in that way also. And I think that is a common thread of unicorns in general, that I was raised very religious. Like my parents built a church. Like we're not talking like we went, but like they built a damn church. And so there are beautiful pieces of that ingrained in my soul. And it was such a process for me to come to terms that I can keep those beautiful pieces, but I don't have to resonate there. Totally. And so it was a real thing for me to step out of the woo-woo closet into the spiritual closet. And like, you know, because I was told at 16 that I was a tarot reader, you know, it was like this whole thing. And I was very connected to meditation, but there was a ton of shame in my house around it. Like it was like devil worship, so that was like a hard lockdown well into my 30s. And then when I was like kind of creeping on it again, I was staying up at night after my entire family had gone to bed to get my tarot cards out. Like, fast forward.
Well, it's so funny because since I've been practicing, and you know, like I'll post some of my individual like one card pulls, and now my family, who I've not always felt judged by, but I always like was like, you know, they go to church and they, you know, still live this lifestyle, which is fine. It fits them. But now I have even my mom and my aunts are like, tell me more about this. Like, what is this all about? I'm like, right. Would you come on over?
Right. Let's have some tea, pull some cards. Well, what I love though is that the idea, there's a lot of people who teach it, right? But it's still in this like little pockets of things that like creator, source, divine source. You want to call it God, call it God. You want to call it goddess, but if they're like creator and source, don't you think they can get their messages through in any way, shape, or form that resonates with somebody? Like, totally. It doesn't have to come through one piece. And so I think that was one, as we started to evolve a friendship out of it also, that piece really resonated, that I really hope genuinely to make a safe space for people in that way, because it took me, I feel like, way too long, right, to come out of that closet, to just get comfortable in myself. And even if for those of you who've been on the site for a long time, and I've had people tell me, you know, that my evolution of like that freedom, of that happiness or that joy has been like whoop, by just having that anchor in there and that self-permission. So
Yeah.
watching you post your like tarot polls makes my heart so happy because it just resonates so genuinely as you. And I think about that it was like that was a long time coming, and it's not a nothing thing that you post those publicly.
Right. Well, and it's interesting to see what it's manifested. I mean, part of what it's manifested is me being pregnant. This was something that I had been thinking about for a very long time. Like, I would say 4 years, I'd been tossing around the idea. And Tandy knows this. I'm not married. I don't have a partner, but I knew that I was meant to be a mother. And so I knew that I couldn't just wait for it to happen with a partner. I needed to make it happen on my own. And so I made the choice to go see a doctor and, get the process started. And, a couple of people have talked about the reset. I was doing the reset. And when I went to the doctor, she's like, typically this takes about 4 tries. We're going to try it without any fertility drugs at first, but we'll see how your body reacts. We might have to put you on some drugs. And so I went in for my first appointment, my first insemination, and it worked the first time. So, and I was at the very end of my reset when I went in. And so, I mean, you talk about divine timing, like everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to.
Well, I just sit over here and I get all chills about it and I get all like crazy because of the setup of how it went also. So like I've been a coach and a trainer for 20 some years, right? Like I'm always the first person to hear from people when they're pregnant, always. And I'm always the first person to know when they've started IVF also, because it will change, how they feel, how it works, like all of that. And so I've always loved being a personal trainer in that way, because you're always the first to know, like before partners and everything. It's like such the special thing that you don't know until you're a personal trainer. You're like, I get to know this first. Like that's really special. That your process too, because I've had so many clients over the years go through IVF or not. And
luckily I didn't have to do IVF.
Right.
Yeah.
But however this journey, like how we're going to do it, that it's really hard on a body. It's quite the challenge. And that we have, lightly discussed that I was like, if you do the reset, I really feel like this is going to prepare your body in the best way possible to receive, because it filters everything. Yeah. I mean, Erica was like nodding her head. And I was like, because I know the power of, of food, one, but of getting your system in just a nourished, bolstered place, that I was like, I think that if you do the reset, you're going to have a real good luck with this. And it really was literally first shot out of the gate. And I was like,
yes. Well, and in that time too, I had a reading with you because I was like, how am I going to stay grounded in this? Because it could take 3, 4, 5 tries. Like, how do I stay grounded in this? And like the card reading, I don't know if you remember this, but it was like the most magical. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, it was just like Empress card, like the sun, like it was just all, and we were like, what is happening?
I know, because even in the reading, and I tread very carefully on these things, and I always tread very carefully as a reader, as a conduit, as a channel, as a psychic, because I also know that human translation can be off, right? Yeah. And I don't, because the cards that came out, I was like, I think you're already pregnant. Like, I think we're. And
I didn't know at the time, but I was.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lita, who may want to raise her hand or pop in, like there was. See here, I'll unmute it because this is one of those where I was starting to feel a little bit like the fertility goddess around here, because I think in one of your readings I was like, are you pregnant?
Yeah, I had emailed you and I was like, I need an emergency tarot reading. I don't know what to do now, because I had just found out, and I was also getting ready to go to grad school, and so I asked Tandy, like, what should I do? And I didn't tell you, Tandy, anything. And then you had, it came out in the card. You're like, this is
Yeah, I was like, I literally remember Lita's reading in particular because I was like, are you pregnant? Because like we'd been doing readings and she was applying for grad school and it was not a planned thing. It was a divine gift, right? But I was like, maybe I'm okay. And so I feel like it was becoming a thing a little bit of like, well, I'm just going to say this because this is what I hear. So there's been some of that in the community that's just, again, you all in this community gathering, not on purpose. I didn't reach out to you particularly because of these stories, just, but in this process of it, stuff comes out on the cards. Y'all don't want to know the truth. Do not get a reading. Number one.
Right. Because it's been all the truth. And I always text you afterwards. I'm like, girl, what is happening?
That's what I hear. I don't know. I do say that too, because that took me a long time to really say that to people of like, do not come to get a reading from me unless you really are willing to hear truth, because truth isn't always what we want to hear. And I've had some clients too that they don't like what they hear, and I go, then perhaps this is not a good connection. Like, you should find another reader, because I'm not here to say certain things or to make y'all feel comfortable or uncomfortable. I literally am just moving through messages.
Yeah.
And so even with Lita's, I was like, I don't know how this is going to land. Yeah. And yours, I was like, I think we're already done, but I don't want to say that either because
yeah. Well, yeah, you said, this is going to happen. You did tell me that, but yeah. I think I knew a little instinctively too, but I didn't want to get my hopes up. And that's why I had the card reading, because I know people that have gone through the same process as me, and it took them quite a while to get it.
Well, that's the expectation, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the reasonable human expectation of like, okay, this could take a while, so we're going to prepare for that.
Yeah.
Okay, if Unicorn Wellness went away tomorrow, how would you feel?
I mean, I think somebody said it earlier. I think there would be a time of mourning. This has become a community for me. I'm not one to really post a lot in the Facebook community, although I'm in there a lot and reading. I'm with the community a lot. And so it's just a good space. It keeps me accountable to myself, because other people are being publicly accountable. And I'm like, Erica's been really great to watch on the Facebook feed, and just her honesty. And, like, I'll have days where I'm like, oh, like I didn't get a meditation, or, oh, like I didn't get with my cards, or, oh, I haven't been on the mat in forever. And just people being honest about them not being there. And like, it like doesn't happen every day, and like we can't beat ourselves up about it, and we just have to like move on and be good about it. I think it would be a loss. And even just like Lita just made a beautiful mobile for me, and just there's been connections. And Callie, like when she did the theta reading with you guys, I remember texting her afterwards. I'm like, I'm sitting in my classroom at school like bawling right now, like I needed that, and I didn't even know I needed it. So just the little connections that it's made, in the past year have been really amazing. Well, and that would be sad for that to go away.
I just have seen, I mean, again, it's only been a year, but like your transformation is literal, as to like, I've wanted to do this for 4 years, and now I'm feeling empowered, and now feels like the right time to do it. And your malas that you started making forever ago, you gifted me with one of them, and it showed up in the mail, and I was like, what the? It's the most beautiful mala I've ever seen. And that is not an exaggeration. That is not because I've traveled all around the world. I love jewelry. I love me some malas. And it showed up, and I was like, it was like somebody strung me in a mala. Like, it was the most unique, beautiful piece ever. And I was like, girl, you got to sell these. Like, and now
and you're not the first person to tell me that either. Other people have told me that, and I'm like, okay. Like it didn't really stick until, well, and it just, I think like I needed to hear, and like Lita said, like you're so amazing at promoting other women, and that has been like, that was such a like fire in me. I was like, I can do this, I can try it, and if it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere, but like I can try it, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, and you can take it at your own pace, but be totally supported in the process of it.
Exactly.
It's one of my favorite things too to do, is to watch you all and to be able to support it. I'm like, this community really does support each other if you're brave enough to step out, you know, like in those ways, or if that's something that you want to do. Callie and Val are both going to step out in a different way, like later on next year, you know, with this. But I'm really committed to all of us as a community and as a gathering of women. It's not only women on the mat, interestingly enough. It's not exclusive. That just tends to be like the home base of it and attracted to it. But we have a really beautiful mixed community. And the interesting thing is everybody's a high feminist, everybody's supportive, so nothing feels intrusive in it, right?
Totally.
However, the heartbeat is supporting and healing women, but any of the men who are on the mat, man, they're here to do that too, and to embrace the feminine side of themselves, which has been so gorgeous in these bouts of things. So,
which is so interesting, and I think that Erica kind of hit on it too. Like as a young adult and as a teenager, I did not have female friends. Like I did not trust women, even though like my past hurt was from men. I trusted men more and I had way more male friendships. And so into my 30s, like has been the time that I've like been women centered, and it's been such a change. And like you said, so much empowerment has come from it. So
it's a really weird, sneaky thing, because I, interestingly enough, had very similar experiences, very different reasons for it. And I went to an all-women's college and then was like, but still had the same experience when I left a women's college of I tended to have more male friends. When I had kids, I had boys, and I was like, great, that's going to work out much better for me. You know, like somewhere I was like, okay, but it's very similar. And for the, like, right before we rebranded and relaunched as Unicorn Wellness, when it initiated, which was about 3.5 years ago, that I was at a place where I had no female, I was really like, I had no, it's that ascension process. So you have your spiritual awakening and things get real quiet so you can get right with yourself. And then I feel like in the last 2 years, man, look at, this is my community too, right? I built what I needed, but I really feel like now, like I have this abundance of really fierce, loving, supportive women. Very diverse, and I'm like, God, that's a blessing. So for you all to feel that way, I'm like, yeah, let's do more of that, because it's so
totally
scary.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
All right, my dear unicorns, I am ever so grateful you spend this time with me when we gather. You don't know how happy it makes my heart. And I hope that it helps you all resonate in that same way. This community is so beautiful. I would literally spend all my days, all my hours just talking to each and every member if that were possible. I really would. And that's what the private Facebook group really facilitates, because in that way I get to, right? We take the beauty of technology and the internet and use it in its best capability, which means we can connect with people all over the world in true, genuine nature. And it can be a time-saving thing. Like, I'm not going to fly to Iowa every other day. I wish I could. I'm not going to fly to Austin, you know? So it's like our members who are in the UK, like this is a genuine place of gathering that allows us to have connections in a very modern way, in a busy lifestyle. And thank you for sharing your lives with us and with me. And thank you for sharing this time and being willing to pay it forward of like, hey, here's what it's like in the community. Here's who's in the community. Yeah, so I hope this resonates with those who are like, is Unicorn Wellness for me? Are these ladies really what they say they are? Eric's like, yeah, it is. We really are this genuine, earnestly. And if it resonates with you, we hope to meet you very soon and for you to be with us on the mat in meditation and in the stars. Thank you.